Let's take a look at question 12. So what we're doing here is we're drawing parabolas. We're going to take the equation here and we're going to turn this into a completed square form to make it easier to go ahead and to draw. Now, if you can't easily factorize, that's the only way you could factorize that, is if you use the quadratic equation, the quadratic formula, and go ahead and input A, B, and C and see what the two values for x would be. And we can do that using a Casio calculator or a Texas Instruments, depending on what you've got, and probably a whole bunch of other ones besides. I've just got a Casio, so that's what we're going to be using in just a moment. So in the meantime, though, let's go ahead, and the first thing is to complete the square. And completing the square is a little bit of a task, especially for these folks here with a coefficient. You've just got yourself an extra step to take here. So let's go ahead and do that. So here's my question 12. I'll write it over here. So here it is again. We've got question 12. We've got y is equal to 3x squared minus 6x minus 2. Now, what the first thing we're going to do is we're going to treat it as an expression. We're not going to make y equals 0. We're not going to do anything like that. So we're just looking at the expression here. And I'm noticing it's got a coefficient of 3. Well, I don't really want a coefficient. Coefficients, we can use them, but it's just so much simpler to do it without. So what we're going to do is take the 3 outside the brackets. I'm going to use big square brackets here and pop my x squared here. So 3 times x squared is 3x squared. And I've got a minus 6 here, so I'm going to go minus. Well, if I made that a 2x, 3 times negative 2x is negative 6x. And I've got 3 here. So this is a minus 2, but we're going to have to divide it by 3 because negative 2/3 times 3 is my negative 2. So that's what I would do. So there I am, first bit. Now let's go to the second step. Now we're going to restate this. Here it is, minus 2x. I'm going to spread this out a whole bunch now. So I've got a negative 2/3. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the b term, which is a negative 2. Here it is. I'm going to add it to, but I'm going to add it, and then I'm going to subtract it. So here I go. I'm going to add it. I'm going to go plus. I'm taking the b term, which is negative 2. And I'm also going to minus it as well, subtract it. So I'm going to take minus and put put minus and put, what have I got here? My negative 2 here as well. So I'm adding it and I'm going to subtract it. But I'm also going to divide it by 2 and square it. Divide it by 2. There it is. Divide it by 2, sorry. And square it. So the net result is if I've got this equation here and I add negative 2 on 2, I've taken the b term, I've halved it and squared it, and I've added it. And I've done the same thing again, but this time I've taken it and halved it and squared it, but I've subtracted it. So the net result is I'm back to where I was at the start. Nothing's changed. All right. So that being the case, we can now do a little magic trick, which is this. We've got a 3, we've got a large bracket. I'm going to put a smaller bracket inside and put a squared here. Because you see the whole of this bit here can now be reduced to a perfect square. Here it is. This is going to be an x. I take the contents of the brackets, nothing else. Negative 2 over 2 is negative 1. There it is. Now, all I've got left to reconcile is this bit on the end. So I've got a negative 2/3 minus, now, of course, negative 2 on 2, all squared. Well, that's 1, negative 1. Negative 1 squared is 1. So I'm going to go negative 2/3 minus 1. There it is. And in fact, I'm actually going to rewrite that. I just to make my life a little bit easier. And I think this is probably what I should have done when I started this. I'm going to make that negative 3 on 3, and you'll see why in a second. Negative 2/3 minus 3 on 3. You don't have to do this, but people are always saying, well, how do you do that in your head? But if you make this negative 3 on 3, well, I got negative 2 minus 3 is negative 5. So what I've ended up with here, and this is where the rubber meets the road, as it were. So I've got my x minus 1 all squared. That's my square. I got negative 2 minus 3 is negative 5 on 3. So now I'm pretty much there. I'm going to multiply this by 3. I'm going to multiply this by 3. And when I multiply this thing on the end by 3, well, I just cross off the 3 because it's now 3 bigger. So the answer is going to be 3 times, so I'll put equals here, x minus 1 all squared. And this is going to be minus 5. So there is my completed square. That's what we've got. So now we're ready basically to draw this thing. Okay, let's have a look at doing that. So here is my graph. So here's my 0, here's my x-axis. Sorry, it's gone out of focus for some reason. Now it's back again. All right. So I've got x minus 1, which means it must be crossing at plus 1. And it's going to be minus 5, so it's going to be heading down minus 5. So here's my negative 5. And this is my point. This is my 1 along, comma, negative 5. That's my vertex. And it's as you can see, it's a minimum point, which is, as opposed to the last one we did, which was a maximum point. Now, we also want to know where it's going to cross other points as well. Now, unfortunately, we can't just plonk this straight into, can't just factorize this neatly. It won't factorize. So let's see if we can just use the quadratic equation. But I'm going to cheat. I'm going to use the calculator to do it for me. And let's go ahead and do that right now. So here we are. I've got my solver here. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to say, well, we've got a value of, let's have a look. We've got A is 3. So I've got A is 3. B is negative 6. And C is negative 2. So let's plonk those in. Here we go. So we've got A is, what have we got here? A is 3, B is negative 6, and C is negative 2. Sorry, you can't see that very easily. It just keeps going out of focus. In focus, please. There you go. Look at that. Just like I bought one. All right, now let's go solve. We go solve, and with any luck, we end up with a couple of useful values. So 1x value is 2.29. So over this side here, we're going to end up with a 2.29. So there's 1. Let's call that 1, 2. And 2.2, so it's probably about there, yeah? So this is going to be 2.29 along, 0 up. There it is. And on the other side, we've got negative 0.29. Well, let's make that negative 1, negative 2. Negative 0.29 is about there. So we're going to end up, and I'll try and draw this, I'll have to draw it on the side. So here we go. So it's going to go down. Oh, it's going to cross here somewhere. Where's it going to cross? We can find that out really easily looking at this thing here, because if I say, well, when x is 0, what's y? Well, I can make this 0, and I'm left with negative 2. That's rather nice to do. So negative 2, well, there's negative 5. Negative 2, let's call it about there, yeah? There's my negative 2. So it's crossing here, and it's going to head down through negative 2. It's going to go around here, and this is the bit I always have trouble with. It's this bit here, turning it round. And Julie, I've missed the point, of course. There we are. And it heads back up now through that point. And we end up with our parabola. So useful to say what some of these points are. This is a negative 2, 0. No, wait. What am I doing? Man, that's just crazy. That's just, no. It's 0, negative 2. That's not good, not good, not good. Okay, here we go. 0, negative 2. There it is. And it crosses at that point there. Let's see if I can make that happen. Right. So that's what we're in for. Okay, so the graph now, and you want to say y is equal to, and we could just say over here, y is equal to, and I'm going to say 3x squared minus 6x minus 2. And there is our parabola. And you probably want to say this is a minimum at 1, negative 5. And you could, if you want to say the line of, how would you call it, symmetry. The axis of symmetry here, this is an x equals 1. Oh, man, sorry. I got a bit of a cold. Not working. Yeah, I feel like complete, not good. All right, so anyway, that's the answer. Hopefully that makes sense, and we make that look a little bit more like an x. Okay, get back to me with any questions.